everyone. Thank you for coming to the last session. Luckily, I'm the one who's chosen to do the last session, but it should be pretty good. I'm going to talk about the new domain branding opportunities, facing the new frontier of domain names. How many of you have heard that there's new domain extensions besides .com, .net, and .org out there? Well, there's actually about 777 now launched of new domain extensions, anywhere from community names to digital brand asset type names, to vertical industry type names, generics, and we're going to go through some of the reasons why these things were developed and some of the opportunities that are out there for you as companies and startup entrepreneurs. So again, I'm Monte Cahn. I'm the founder and president of Right at the Dot. We kind of specialize in helping new domain registries promote their premium domain extensions and their premium domain names. So their premium names would be something like, in the old days, autos.com or cameras.com, the premium domain name to the left of the dot. Now that there's names that are premium to the right of the dot, a lot of domain names have linguistic meaning to names to the right of the dot. Like .cars, you might have buy.cars or sell.cars, or coffee.club, which is one of the new domain extensions that are now exhibiting here at the show. I'm here as an ambassador, though, today for the Domain Name Association. The Domain Name Association was an association founded by 47 industry pioneers and leaders in our field to help raise awareness and educate new domain users and companies about what these new domain names do. Back in the old days, when there was only .com and .net and .org, there's nobody even advertising what .com meant, what .net meant, what .org meant, and why you should use domain names. So one of the goals and missions of our organization is to help you as end users and companies know what their choices are, because a lot of extensions in today's world don't have good names available to them anymore. So a lot of the new extensions, you can get good premium domain names and names that you can use for your businesses and identities that make sense and more linguistic sense for you. So names like, or companies like GoDaddy, which you've seen advertised on TV a lot, and Google, and Microsoft and Amazon are all part of this organization to help build brand awareness and make everyone aware who's using domain names more aware of what their choice can be. And so we are educating the end users and the communities on how to use them. So I'm going to go over what has changed, why there are new domain extensions, and what the reasons are for that. How did it happen, and now how some of these domain names are being used, which is very important for you as new users and new entrepreneurs trying to find the right name and brand for your business. You know, what are your choices out there? It's not only .com anymore, where you have to go out 20 or 30 letters to get the right .com name that you want. You now have a lot of other extensions you can choose from that have meaning to your business. Who remembers once upon a time ago there was only one toll-free number? It was an 800 number. And everyone wanted to get this 800 number because the number spelled a word at the end of it, and that's the only way you can remember the digits. But we're kind of in that era now with new domain names. There used to be only .com and .net and .org, and we kind of ran out of that real estate for premium real estate. So we're opening up the frontier for new extensions so you have more choices. Just like with the 800 toll-free numbers, there's now 26 different choices you can choose from. 877, 833, 855, and so on. The same analogy is in existence for area codes and prefixes. Remember when there's only one prefix for New York City? It was 212, and now there's 13, I think, throughout the tri-state area for cell phones and prefixes. Same with South Florida, where I came from. In Miami and all the way to Orlando, there used to be just 305 and then the number. Now there's 11 different choices. So this is all about real estate kind of running out in the telephonic world, and the same thing's happening with domain names, and this is why we have new domain extensions being introduced. So the internet in the 1990s existed with .com and .net and .org, and for the military they had .mil and .edu for colleges and so on, and now we have a lot more choices out there. In 1998, an organization called ICANN, which is the Incorporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, was formed to help deregulate what was then a monopoly. Remember back then you had to register your domain name through one company, which was called Network Solutions. They kind of controlled .com and .net and .org from one registry and one registrar. and everybody complained that there wasn't enough competition. So ICANN was formed to help create more competition with registries and registrars. And through the 1990s and 2000s, we got the introduction of some more domain extensions. So in the 2000s, you might have seen some of these other extensions. .biz and .info were introduced, along with some what we call STLDs, which were special TLDs that were for certain industries like .museum or Aero for the aerospace industry. Those were protected, and you had to prove that you were part of the museum organization or had a museum in order to get one. In .biz and .info's case, it was a wide open extension to compete with .com or give another reason or another choice for those that couldn't get the right extension or the right domain name in a .com or .net or .org. This continued through the 2000s, and a lot more introductions of new TLDs were introduced. But at the end of the day, through the 2000s, there's only 21 or 22 new TLDs introduced. Some of them you might have heard of some more, so .jobs and .travel was introduced, but probably none of you really are that much aware of them because, again, they're restricted for employment agencies and travel agents. So what's changed in 2013, we had the introduction of the new plethora of domain extensions. They are basically related to meanings to the right of the dot that might mean something to your particular industry or what you really want to do or how you want to display the information and the services that you provide as a company or as an individual. And so we now have the introduction of all these new domain extensions that are just like .com but have meaning to the right of the dot. So there's a lot more choice. And with that comes a lot more chaotic competition, but there's reasons and enough compelling information and momentum that this will make sense, just like there was when we introduced more 800 numbers and more extensions for area codes and prefixes for telephones. So it all will work itself out through automation and search. These 1,000 new extensions are divided into a couple different categories. So there's brands like .Nike and .Barclay and .Citibank, geographics like .NYC and .London, and now the introduction of .Miami, community TLDs like .gay and .hiv, generics like .buzz, .club, and other extensions like that. Industrial verticals like .law and .health, which have a lot of meaning in those particular industries. And then we have something called IDNs, which stands for International Domain Names, and they're alphanumeric codes that kind of bring up the character sets of foreign characters and countries that don't understand the English keyboards. So as I mentioned before, there's about 21 new TLDs, or existing TLDs, and today there's 777 now in the root, and actively where you can go and register them. Most of them are open, and you can register them from anywhere and register them for your business. Some of them have restrictions to them, like .bank, for instance. You have to prove that you're a banking institution, and that's more for security reasons. But there's 8,500,000 new registrations of these new TLDs, so it's starting to take off. So in the total root of all TLDs, there's about 250 million domain names registered overall, and 8.5 million of them are the new TLDs. When we start building more awareness, and when you start seeing Nike, for instance, advertising their brand on TV or on billboards and signs, you'll then start to get that there's new domain names being used in a lot of creative and different ways. So here's some examples of some different ways that some companies are using them today. So this is a wind technology, wind energy company using offshore wind.works. Wendy's uses .jobs to post their jobs and employment applications instead of doing wendys.com/jobs. They chose a .job site, so did a lot of companies to do that. Oktoberfest.London is an example of a geographic domain name. Here's a great, what we call a domain hack, or good use of letters that spell another word by using the extension. So the .co registry and Taco Bell formed a partnership to create Taco, which is ta.co, and now Taco Bell is using that in their advertising campaigns. Everybody heard of Snowden? This is his particular kind of blog domain name where he's getting his messages across, which is .press. Lady Gaga's site, Born This Way Foundation. Here's an example of a memorial.tld for .memorial. There's also a .rip that does the same thing that's out in the market. I mentioned coffee.club before. There's millions of clubs all over the world, and one of our clients used to go by .org, and he decided that he wanted to create a coffee club where you can order the little K-cups online on a monthly basis, kind of like the Dollar Shave Club. And this has been a successful startup now using the .club domain name. Big Mac and McDonald's use BigMac.rocks for something cool and new about how everybody loves Big Macs. Here's a .nyc name. Here's some of the companies that didn't apply in this last round for new TLDs, and probably in the next round, a lot of these companies will apply because they're missing the opportunities that these companies found so far. So very soon, you're going to see companies spark up and start launching in their own extension instead of launching with a .com name, which doesn't have meaning to anybody. They want to end their extension and their emails and their messaging with their brand at the end. So instead of having Nike.com/shoes or apparel, they're going to be shoes.nike and apparel.nike and marathons.nike. And their emails will end in .nike instead of .com. That's very important for them. Barclays is one of the first banking institutions that launched. And so if you go to a .barclays site like home.barclays, you then launch into their banking portal, which never was in existence before. So they felt the value of having their brand at the end as well. So of course there's risks and opportunities to getting these new domain names. Some of the risks obviously are that it's not well known. Most people are used to dialing in .com and not the new extensions. But again, as awareness builds, just like with telephone extensions and in the telephone business, over time people will get it. In our generation, we're so used to typing .com, but my kids, who are now going through middle school and even high school, when they get out, they're going to want something that means what they do and has an extension that has meaning. It's more logical to them than having a .com or having something that has 26 letters in front of the dot. So now if my son wants to be a lawyer, he's probably going to end up with a law name, a .law name. And if you see a lot of law sites, they're the acronyms of all the partners, and they may have the word law in it, and they may not, and it just doesn't search well. So now they have a .law choice or a .attorney choice that they can go to. So these new extensions are a very important part of building your identity, your brand awareness. It's important for marketing, and more importantly of all that, it needs to be simple and easy to use. So the new extensions are geared towards being more simple because they can be shorter to the left of the dot and have meaning both to the left and to the right of the dot, which is easier to search in the search engines and also more relevant to the new generation coming online today versus the old generation that only saw .com in their life. So there's been a number of surveys done, and some of them by our organization, and most people compared to trusting all search results like the fact that they can trust typing in a domain name into the URL line, whether it's google.com or amazon.com to autos.com and other places. So there's a big trust factor when it comes to domain names and how important it is for your business. This also goes to the comparison of people using Facebook for their companies. Having your future of your company and your brand in the hands of another company like Facebook and having just a Facebook page isn't probably the right strategy long term. It might be something short term, and you still can use it for your social media branding and social media purposes, but long term you want to own your asset, you want to own your identity, you want to own your extension, and you want to be able to launch your products and services off of a domain name that makes logical sense to what you're doing in business or the message you want to portray. 60% of people that were asked also would like to have more choice than just .com. So having new extensions is something that's desirable because it may make more sense for people to have things that have meaning to the right of the dot, and because it's hard to get premium domain names to the left of the dot if it's a .com, since all those names have been taken for years. You can still get some in the aftermarket, but you're going to pay a lot of money, just like you would buying a house for sale or a premium piece of real estate here in New York City that's for sale. You can get it, but you're going to pay up for it. But the future of new domain names allows a lot more competition and a lot more choice out there for affordable prices. So most people do this all the time. You type in a domain name into the browser and you get to where you want to go, and you usually type in a relative search term into Google. If you look on the right-hand side, when we ask how many people would type in what those domain names are, what would you trust on paying bills online, you can see that some of the new extensions add up to a .com already. People like the name onlinepayments.secure and it's almost as important as onlinepayments.com. It's a more trustworthy, or as trustworthy of a choice of an extension. So these new extensions are coming out and they're having relevancy already, even in today's internet user. So the conclusion is that users trust domain names and new domain names more than they do search in general. Users get what domain names, new domain names are really meaning. When you look at a domain name to the right of the dot, it has meaning. People know what it means when you hear .cars or .club. They know that they're getting something that they're going to that has the meaning to the right of the dot. With .com, some people don't know where they're going to go. There's good SEO results because the left of the dot meaning of the word also matches to the right of the dot meaning, and it can search better. So you can have more relevant search by having the meaning to the left of the dot and to the right of the dot. And for example, for .realtor name extension, there's branding opportunities that are safe, there's more choices, and you can also have different vertical choices in the real estate industry, just like with .law, you can get .real estate, .realtor, .build, so there's a lot of different choices in your verticals as well. That's it. Just wanted to give a good education on new domain names, how they're being used, and now I'll open up for questions in case anybody has any questions about new domain names or existing domain names.
So how do you apply for your own domain name?
So are you asking how you apply to have your own extension?
Yes.
Okay, so there was just an application period that just closed, and there was over 1,900 applications, and only 1,000 were chosen out of those applications. And there's a $185,000 application fee, and it's you have to be, you have to have like three years of reserve and funds and everything. So there's a whole application process. But the next round is not going to open until another 3 or 4 years, probably. So they're letting this round go through and get all the bugs out, kind of see how it goes before they open it up again. So it's not open again probably for another 3 or 4 years. So we don't know for sure yet until the next set of extensions are coming out. But you can go online and get something that's relevant to your business today in one of the extensions that are already available.
Hi, aside from building your own brand, what are some ways to profit, like you said when you started this, from the domains?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
What are some of the ways to profit from this, like a regular entrepreneur?
Well, for an entrepreneur, so I got in this business in 1995 by investing in domain names and .com and as if they were virtual real estate. So that's an opportunity, is registering domain names that have good meaning to the left and to the right of the dot in these new extensions, and having a long-term focus and play that those assets will increase in value, which just like real estate, they have over time. The other way to profit, obviously, is to be in the business and do registrations and be a registrar, or to offer brands and services that launch off of new TLDs. If you're in hosting business or an SEO company, if you're in the SSL business, helping build websites, those types of things are good ways to profit from it as well. Obviously, if you already have a .com, what you can do is use some of the new domain extensions to launch certain verticals or products and services off your .com and get another website or another type of presence. For example, we talked about Wendy's.jobs. Well, Wendy's didn't give up Wendy's.com, obviously, but they got their .job site for a particular vertical, which is to hire people. So it made more linguistic sense, and it comes up first in the search engines for them when they did that. So there's still products and services you can launch off and do campaigns with, for example. Like Taco Bell, which I showed up there, they have ta.co, and they're launching a particular campaign off of that, but they still have tacobell.com, for example. So you can use these new domain names to launch promotions, advertising campaigns, create another website in your website community that you can launch products and services back to and link back and forth from, and even get more customers from different kind of avenues.
Do the new extensions have the same cyber squatting regulations as the .coms? Like if I tried to get td.net, would that come under the same rules as the .com cyber squatting laws?
Actually, there's more stringent rules with new TLDs than there was with .com. So one of the big concerns was by opening up all these new extensions, it creates confusion and more opportunity for people to squat on people's brands. So what we did was, not we, but what ICANN did was they have something called the Trademark Clearinghouse. And all trademark owners and names can put up certain brands and product names and services in this clearinghouse first. And there's a whole Trademark Clearinghouse database. And so those are protected for the companies that actually own those particular brands and services and their trademarks to register before other people get them. So it's kind of an extra layer of protection that wasn't available in .com or .net or .org or info or biz. And there's also something called URS, which is a rapid process to get your trademark name back. In the old days, there was something called UDRP, which is a dispute resolution policy that involved a 3-judge panel whenever you had a claim to get a trademark name that you thought was yours, and it had to be voted on or judged on by this 3-person panel, and then that ruling ruled, and you can have a chance to appeal for it. The URS speeds that up by multiple times, plus is a lot less expensive. It's like less than $500 to get that brand back. What was your question, Bill?
So, yeah, no, I was just curious if you think, and I realize we're talking about a timeline of years here until the next application process, but do you ever think acquiring a TLD will ever be affordable for a small business and not in the $180,000 range?
Yeah, there's rumors that the next round will be less expensive than this past round, but we don't know what that's going to be. Again, the whole goal of ICANN was to encourage competition and open up new opportunities for those. And a lot of brands, a lot of small and medium-sized businesses feel like they couldn't afford the $185,000 price. There's been a lot of opinions and posts to that effect. So we think it's going to come down, maybe closer to the $100,000 mark this next round. There's a huge cost of infrastructure, obviously, to introduce this stuff and to make it safe and usable until they get it down. So there's no limit really on how many rounds they're probably going to do here, unless something happens. But obviously with time and supply, the cost will go down over that period of time. And even some of the large companies, when they look back now and see how much money they spent to get that application, they're looking at it, now I'm speaking from a large corporation standpoint, as a bargain to have their own brand and own the rights to that brand for forever, or for at least 10 years until they renew it again. And for small businesses, it has to be affordable also. So we don't know what that cost is going to be, but we hear it's going to be lower. But I see in the next round or the next couple rounds that cost is going to come down.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions? So here's a question up here.
Hi, I have just 2 questions. One in SEO perspective. You showed before an example with online payments, And I'm thinking with all those extensions, if online payment I have, done online payment that website, online payment that site, online payment that bank, how this you think can be some sort of confusing for a user perspective? I mean, it's an opportunity, but it could be also negative.
The perception is it's totally confusing. But again, if we look back at current examples and past examples, so when there was only one 800 number, and there became 877, 866, 855, 833, there's 26 of them now. All can spell the same thing in the letters. Somehow you find out who the right company to go to is through, in the old days, you used to look up in telephone books to find out who that was, or advertising and see their advertised brand. When you had to send a letter to your aunt in France and use their zip code, you didn't know what it was. You looked through the big book, and there was no online engine. There's no Google or Yahoo to go look that stuff up in. Now we have online search to make it easier. We have big search engines. And by the way, Google and Amazon apply for hundreds of these themselves. So they're going to make the search algorithms work. That's one part of the question. The other part is there's several uses today of the same term. So you can have onlinepayments.com, .net, .org, .biz, 22 of them that existed prior to that, plus country codes. There's 245 different country codes too. So country code is the 2-digit code that is assigned to every country by IANA. So for example, US is .us, Germany is .de, and they can all have the same thing. So again, that doesn't have to do with search. Search has to do with how you, as a company, use SEO to get yourself to the top of the search engines, and how relevant your website is to the keywords in that domain name, and make sure that you have good meta tags, search, organic search. You can be paying for pay-per-click keywords and terms to get you to the top as well.
If you see this in top 10 companies do exactly the same, with it using the same keyword. You will see a listing of using exactly the same keyword, exactly the same name, just the extension different. And it's not so easy to, well, we'll see what's going on.
Right. So big corporations, some of the big corporations have their own brand at the end of the dot. So onlinepayments.ebay is going to be a lot different, which owns PayPal. Is going to be a lot different than onlinepayments.com.net.org and who's behind all those. So again, when you do relevant search and whoever's paying for those keywords, their names will bubble up to the top, just like it is today. Yes, there's a lot more extensions out there, but it will sort itself out through search engine optimization and search engine systems and ability and the right formulas to find out which names are the right companies. And you're going to start seeing these names pop up on billboards and in ads and on TV and all kinds of stuff over time. And .co did a great job of that in Superway. Based on GoDaddy ads, and there's .co. .co is the country code for Colombia, but was repurposed to mean company and co-op and communication and all these things that are, it has .co as a brand and as a name. So they did a good job of getting end users to understand what the extension meant, as well as registrars making sure their clients did.
And how do you see the .com long term after that explosion of?
Good question. So everybody's question usually is, well, what happens to .com in the light of all this? So all those Fortune 500 companies that got their 800 numbers didn't give them up because there's 877, 866, 855. They kept that asset because the core group of users from their current generation are still used to using those particular numbers. In the new world, though, the new Fortune 500 companies will probably look at new extensions. The old ground-based corporations aren't going to be changing right away, although some of them are. Citibank is, using .city, going to use .city. Will they get rid of their .com? Probably not. They'll probably use them in conjunction with each other. They'll never get rid of it. They'll do a 301 redirect, still keep their .com name, because that's what the current generation thinks is the right name. And then the new generation will be using a new extension. So that's one answer. Now, long tail names that have multiple words and multiple letters deep, those will probably become less valuable in the future because new domain names give them opportunity for shorter names that are premium today in an extension that makes sense to the right of the dot. So again, I use the example when my kids get out of school and I ask them myself, what would you choose? If you're going to be a lawyer, what would you choose? And of course they chose .log or .com. Because it makes more logical sense to them. They're not in the current .com era where, almost every Fortune 500 company uses .com. But when I got in this business, there was no Yahoo, there was no Google, there was no Amazon. And, they're all new startups, in the last 15 years, using extensions. And now they've applied for new TLDs to use in this environment. So it's going to transition over time. It's going to take 5 to 10 years, just like the current .com era, for people to get what domain names are and how they're supposed to be used.